All right, man, Torture Talk. Make sure to subscribe to the page. 6 o'clock show, 6 o'clock show. All right, so look, man. What's the next big three? You know what I'm saying? We want to see who's the next big three in hip hop, or will there ever be another big three? We don't know. Maybe it will just be where it's at. I don't know. Maybe this is the end. Maybe Kendrick Lamar is the final boss. So look, we're going to get into that. Before I get into that, I got to get my spill. This is Torture Talk. If you like the content, please consider subscribing. If you're new here, let me work for your subscription today. All the beautiful, sexy ladies, put one in the chat. All the fellas, y'all know where to find the ones at. Just don't harass them. I don't sell no merch, but I do have content that's absolutely free. But if you want to leave a donation, links on the screen, Cash App, PayPal is in the description. Thank you very much for all y'all donations. I appreciate y'all. They call me the hidden gem. I went from 1,300 subscribers to over 11,000. Should be 12,000 soon and 1 million by Monday morning. You know what I'm saying? Thank you very much. And let me know where you're from, too. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate everybody that's here with me at 6 o'clock. I know y'all on your way home. I know y'all out here doing whatever y'all can. You know what I'm saying? Maybe y'all at the grocery store, got your phone in your pocket with your headphones in your ear listening to me. And I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So look, we're going to get into the clip. We'll be right back. All right, so let's go, man. Links will be in the description. You know that.
This video isn't about Drake. This video isn't about Kendrick Lamar. And hell, this video isn't even about J. Cole. I've been thinking more and more recently that we will truly never see another big three within hip-hop. Or at least not to the extent that the original big three took over the conversation of greatest rappers of the 2010s. And while I do think the idea of the 2010s big three is inherently pretty limiting, since it excludes people like Kanye and Future from the list, both of which could easily replace J. Cole in my opinion, I still thought it'd be fun to do a little thought experiment determining what current three rappers could fit into a hypothetical big three of the 2020s. Now right off the bat, obviously there's no objective answer as to which rappers would perfectly fit into this 2020s big three. Since like I said, we really never will see another trio with as much collective cultural influence as the original 2010s big three had.
I think that, to be honest with you, I think there's really only two that had a cultural influence. Actually, three. And this is going to sound kind of crazy, but I think that I believe Future, Kanye West, and Kendrick Lamar had the most cultural influence over the 2010s in hip hop. I don't think Drake had the most cultural influence because I think that people influenced him. I don't think he really did anything that was of his own that I can say, yeah, he started that trend. You know what I'm saying? He might have did some things, but just because he's Drake doesn't mean he had influence, a cultural influence. J. Cole, no, absolutely not. No, I would never put J. Cole next to Kanye West or Future or Kendrick Lamar. Never. Maybe rap wise, you want to say he's a part of the big three, but no. Easily replace J. Cole with Kanye West. Easily replace Drake with Future. Easily. Honestly, to me, the big three could be Future, Kendrick, and Kanye West. That could be the big three right there. Be honest with you. I would easily eliminate Drake and J. Cole. Easily.
But with my picks, I wanted to try and assign a rapper for each 2010s big three member based on how well they fit into the mold of their original counterpart. And with this criteria, trust me, you're gonna want to stick around for my last pick. It's pretty insane. But yeah, with that all out of the way, let's get into my picks. So starting with by far the easiest lock on this list, and it's gotta be JID. Since 2018, he's been on an absolutely insane run of quality albums, singles, and features. Like, I listened to The Forever Story again a few days ago, and my god, I forgot how incredible that record is. And with how early he really still is in his career, along with his steady increase in mainstream popularity since 2022, it really feels like we're gonna witness JID's ascension to the throne in just a few short years. But while he was an easy choice to put on a list of big three of the 2020s, whose spot he would take between Kendrick Lamar or J. Cole was a much harder question for me. Obviously, J. Cole was the guy to sign him to Dreamville in the first place, making him kind of a Cole protege by extension. But ultimately, I did end up putting him in Kendrick's spot since I do think that the two share more similarities, at least artistically speaking. Firstly,
I don't know. I don't really know. I know JID is good. I know he's good, but for me, like, I don't know. Some people just they could be good, but they just don't have it. There's a lot of rappers that were good back in the day, but they just didn't have that appeal to go to the next level. You know what I'm saying? I heard a couple of Jid joints and he was rapping, it was cool, but it just I don't know even how to explain it. I don't think that he for me it has to be you have to meet a certain aura. You have to have a certain aura about you. I don't feel like Jid has an aura about him, if that makes sense. Let's keep it going.
Jid is definitely the best lyricist of the three, as Kendrick is to the 2010s big three. I also think that Jid's style of lyricism is a lot more like Kendrick's as opposed to Cole's. See, I always personally differentiated Kendrick and Cole's writing styles like this. Kendrick prioritizes more covert lyricism, whereas Cole prioritizes more overt lyricism. While Kendrick tends to add a lot of layers and metaphors to his words, J. Cole more just says it like it is, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying that one style of writing is objectively better than the other or anything, even if I do prefer Kendrick's style of writing, but I do feel like Jid leans way more into the covert end of the spectrum. If you still disagree with my reasoning, that's absolutely fine, but I think in the context for my pick with J. Cole, JID being in Kendrick's position makes a lot more sense. And speaking of J. Cole's spot,
keep on walking, ain't no stopping in this dirty, filthy, rotten, nasty.
Now finding a rapper to fill in for J. Cole's spot in the big three was a lot tougher since I already did put Jid for Kendrick after all. But after some consideration, I do feel like Denzel Curry is a pretty solid pick all things considered. Denzel is of course another artist with
Another one. I like Denzel Curry, but a lot of these dudes, they just don't have the aura to me. It's like they're doing what they're doing is they're doing the same thing that people were doing already. Kendrick Lamar, he broke the mold. You know what I'm saying? A lot of those rappers broke the mold. Kanye West broke the mold. What's the name broke the mold. These people broke the mold. So it's very I would say weird to see that. They broke the mold.
really strong discography and is definitely worthy of big three conversation if we're going by quality of work alone. Also, the fact that he's still under 30 means that he has by far the most time of the three rappers on my list to attain the cultural influence that the 2010s big three members had. But still, I'd be lying if I said that there weren't any holes in my argument against picking Denzel, especially as a fill-in for J. Cole. For one, he's definitely the least popular artist of my three picks, and while Cole is also the least popular member of the 2010s big three, I think that with Denzel specifically, it could be argued that he's just too niche of an artist right now to get to a level of commercial success similar to anybody in the 2010s big three. But when looking at most other aspects,
That's a great point. That's a great point. He's a very, very niche artist that I believe a lot of people like him. He's an acquired taste. He's not really for everybody. You know what I'm saying? And then let's be honest here. Some of his stuff is okay. It's not super fire. I be seeing people say a lot of his stuff. I listen to all his albums, and some of his stuff is just okay. He just does a lot in a song. Doesn't mean it's great to me. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I feel like he be doing too much. You know what I'm saying? Again, but it's nothing wrong with doing too much if you experiment. So maybe that's what he's doing. I don't know. Let's keep going.
so the two, I feel like Denzel and J. Cole might be more similar than the average person thinks. Firstly, Denzel is definitely an artist with a more covert writing style like Cole, for better or for worse sometimes. And it might just be me, but the two kind of seem like they have a similar character, or at least what we can get out of their character from the various interviews and public statements they've made. See, I've always pictured J. Cole as this super chill, nice guy that really just raps for the love of the craft. And from what I've seen of Denzel Curry, it seems like he shares the same passion to create without necessarily appealing strictly to what the public wants. They both have a more make music for the sake of making music vibe to me, if that makes sense. And overall, this is definitely the pick in here that fits the least of the three, but to be fair, I did give myself a pretty strict rule set with this little thought experiment of mine, so I don't think there was ever going to be a perfect match to any one of these artists on here. And I do genuinely think that Denzel Curry deserves a spot in the 2020s big three, regardless of whose spot he fills in specifically.
Yeah, I mean, him being in that conversation of the new big three, I don't know. I I mean, maybe he has a great argument for him. For me, I don't see him or Jid being in this new big three conversation. I just don't see it. I mean, they're talented, but I don't feel like they did something that's groundbreaking. And maybe it's a little bit harder because newer artists, as they come out, it's harder to become legendary. See, before, it took Drake and Kendrick and Cole, Future, and Kanye to do a whole lot to become legendary. the artists from back in the day, it really didn't take them that long. You know what I'm saying? Because hip hop was different back then. So I just don't see it. But let's keep it going.
With Denzel's placement, though, we're left with the final spot in the 2010s Big Three to replace. But before we go over who I think would fill in Drake's spot best for a 2020s Big Three, I want to first go over some honorable mentions that I've seen other people include in their personal 2020s Big Three list that just didn't end up making my cut. So starting with probably the biggest snub out of all of my picks, that being Travis Scott. Obviously, Travis has been massively successful these last few years, has a very strong discography despite only having 4 studio albums, and is definitely on pace to stay a hip-hop superstar at least for the rest of the decade. But my main issue with him is that I feel like he doesn't really fit well into any of the established molds of the 2010s Big Three. To me, Travis has always felt like he feels more of a
That's the thing. You don't. Maybe you're going off of your. I guess you're comparing everybody to these 3 guys, but I mean, to be honest with you, can you really compare these 3 guys to the Big Three before them? You know what I'm saying? Like, it would be a different. They will move differently. These Big Three would be different from this Big Three, because Kendrick, Cole, and Drake, your Big Three, would be different from Big, Pac, and Nas, or Big, Pac, and Jay, or Nas, Jay, and Pac. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you might be able to slide Kendrick in there, but you can't put the other 2 wouldn't fit with Nas and Jay or Jay. You know what I'm saying? Some people would say J. Cole is more like Nas. I totally disagree with that. Totally. You know what I mean? But who knows? Let's keep going.
Kanye role within his music, image, and influence. And despite how much I think Kanye deserves 2010's Big Three status when looking at critical and commercial success as well as influence in the genre, at the end of the day, he isn't a core member of the 2010's Big Three like Drake, Kendrick, or J. Cole, and so choosing a rapper so influenced by him doesn't really make sense with the mindset I went into this with. Same goes for another really popular answer I saw for 2020's Big Three, Playboi Carti. Another artist that really reminds me more of Kanye than any other artist in the 2010's Big Three.
Absolutely not. No. And I like Playboi Carti, but no. Nah.
Although I will say, ignoring the restrictions I imposed on myself for these picks, I think Carti does deserve to be in 2020's Big Three conversation for pure influence alone. I'll probably be making a video soon on this exact topic, but I genuinely can't fathom how much he's managed to skyrocket in popularity and influence. Like, this man is the pioneer of one of the most popular subgenres of rap that we've seen in a minute. Not to mention, Whole Lotta Red is up there with one of the most influential albums of the 2020s. But again, with my particular and need I remind you subjective set of rules in mind, he just doesn't really fit. Another pick I saw a lot was actually JPEG Mafia, and while I absolutely agree when it comes to pure quality, he has easily one of the best and most consistent discographies in modern hip-hop, unfortunately I do think a really important factor when it comes to being in Big Three conversation is commercial and cultural impact, and Peggy's music by nature isn't really made for a mainstream audience like the music of other Big Three contenders. And last honorable mention here, but I went with Juice WRLD since I think he would have been a perfect fill-in for Drake's spot with his melodic rap style had he not passed away so early into his career. Like, seriously, I genuinely think that guy could have been on top of the world with his music if he had just like a few more years in the rap game. It really is a tragedy how young he went out. But with all of my honorable mentions out of the way now, let's finally talk about my last pick for this 2020's Big Three.
Now, how do I feel about that? Juice WRLD. Juice WRLD was dope. JPEG Mafia. All right. I guess I wouldn't put him in there. And then we said before that. I can't remember what we said before that. It wasn't Denzel. It was somebody after that. But either way, let's keep it going.
Darling, 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 there's no need to worry.
Alright, just hear me out here. I know on the surface it seems like Tyler the Creator and Drake could not be more different artists, but if you'll hear me out, I do have a few arguments as to why this pick does kind of fit in my opinion. First though, I want to counter what's probably the biggest reason as to why people wouldn't put Tyler in a 2020's Big Three, and that's simply because he's already in 2010's Big Three conversation. I mean, the guy has been part of mainstream rap way before Jade or Denzel Curry after all. But like,
I don't understand how you picking him. Like, maybe because that's your personal pick, you know, he's still doing music, but he would definitely be, he wouldn't be in this conversation. He shouldn't even be in this conversation because he's been out as long as the ones that you are picking. So I don't know, but maybe you can explain. I don't get it though, but he's worthy. out of all the people you said, he's definitely worthy of being one of the next big three. Definitely.
Like I mentioned a while back in my music hot takes video, Tyler's a super weird artist when it comes to discussing his discography, since you really can split it into two distinct periods, the pre-Flower Boy era and the Flower Boy and Beyond era. In a lot of ways, Flower Boy does function as a debut album to this new version of Tyler after all, so I think with that lens it makes it a lot easier to understand where I'm coming from here. But still, for me to slot him into the Drake position of this big three seems crazy, right? I mean, they make such different music. And I'll give you that, their sounds are completely separate from each other, but I have a little prediction for Tyler's next album that I think makes my case a little bit more. So obviously, Tyler hasn't released a full album since 2021's Call Me If You Get Lost, and with it being a return to rap for Tyler, I'd imagine he's gonna want to switch up the genre for his next release, as he likes to do. So what if, as we speak, Tyler the Creator is cooking up a full-on pop record for 2025? I mean, we've already seen him branch out into a poppier sound with Igor, and even some tracks on the estate sale like Wharf Talk. And this 2025 pop album theory also counters another argument against Tyler's spot, that being that he isn't anywhere near as popular as Drake. And to be honest,
It's one thing I will say. I like Tyler the Creator, and he does do things that's in the realm of his vision. He's been doing this. Only thing I didn't like is him attacking Bruno Mars. I didn't like that. I thought that was corny. You know what I'm saying? And I understand that you had to, and he also attacked other people too, for no reason. It was just corny. But he apologized for all that. You know what I mean? He actually grew what's the name. So Odd Future was always weird to me. I guess that's what they would call Odd Future. But him and Frank Ocean was always the standouts. So I don't know. I don't know if he's going to do a full-on pop album. And if he do, I mean, it just shows you that he's trying to do something different. Who knows?
this next point is what properly convinced me that this pick absolutely can work. I was looking at the streams for Igor the other day just for fun, and I was absolutely floored. I mean, I know it's a classic and all that, but like, 100 million streams on every single track on the album is ridiculously impressive for Tyler, and tons of others with well over 300, 400 mil. Hell, Best Interest was a scrapped song for the record, and it has over 600 million streams. That is nuts. And that's not even mentioning his...
And the thing is, I noticed that with a lot of these people, they judge music off how many streams something has. He's judging. Don't get me wrong. I like Igor. Thought it was pretty dope. But his whole justification of why it's good is because it has so many streams. So the validation comes into play where it's like, well, it must be good because it has over 600,000 streams, or 100,000 or 100 million. It must be good. That's his rationale, but why something's good. Because everything he says, cultural influence, he's saying off of streaming. But there's a whole theory behind streaming, and we know this about streaming, you know what I'm saying? Not to say that he doesn't deserve it, Tyler the Creator, but at the same time, you can't use that as a cue for say he was culturally influencing people because he has so many streams. That doesn't mean anything, because we already know that things can happen to get streams. So let's keep it going.
Other massive songs, including See You Again with nearly 2 billion streams, the man can make hits is what I'm trying to say. So with these streaming numbers in mind, I genuinely think that if Tyler were to release a poppier album in 2025, albeit it's still up to his usual level of quality, it would do insanely well commercially. Now Drake numbers, probably not, but my point is Tyler absolutely does have the commercial success to be worthy of a spot. And I know, even with all of this evidence in mind, there's probably still a lot of you that disagree with my opinion here. But to be fair, Drake was easily the hardest of the 2010s big three to find a fitting match for this list.
But again, your justification for success is off of streams, and that could be a very good argument. But to me, it's still a little bit complicated to think that, because there are a lot of things that goes on in the music industry where they create streams. Now, who knows? Some of these people do have good music, but I just think that you using that as a component to say that this guy is good or Drake is good, it's kind of like, I don't know, man. It's kind of like paying for something that's very expensive and then saying it has good quality because it was expensive. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I look at it when it comes to streams with artists. You can have a lot of streams but still have bad music, is what I'm saying. So
Mainly because he's kind of a chameleon when it comes to his music. And I mean that in the sense that he pulls from so many different places within his music that it's kind of hard to quantify his style as a singular thing. And thus it feels nearly impossible to find newer artists primarily inspired by him, besides Jack Harlow, I guess. So with all that being said, I truly think that as weird as it sounds, Tyler the Creator is the best artist to fill in Drake's spot for the 2020s Big Three. So, those are my 3 picks for a potential 2020s Big 3. If you enjoyed, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel with the bell rung to see new uploads from me every single Friday, unless they say otherwise in my community posts. Also, leave a comment letting me know what your own personal 2020s Big 3 would look like and why you put the artist that you did. I'd love to see the reasoning for other people's picks. And finally, as always, if you'd like to support the channel further, you can now become a member and receive early access to my videos, as well as a special shout out from me in them, as you'll see on the screen right now. So join up if you're interested, it really does help me out a lot.
All right, man. Make sure y'all go subscribe to that guy. All right. Yeah, that was a pretty good video. Yeah, I mean, certain things I agree with, he said. Certain things I disagree with. I don't particularly agree with some of the picks to take hip hop on and move him. Maybe he's saying for just the 2023, maybe in 2023 or whatever, 2024, or move on past that. I don't know. But I do know that I don't think that a lot of these artists that he picked, besides Tyler the Creator, can actually go any further than that. Tyler the Creator, he's been around for a while, and he's doing his thing now. Denzel Curry's dope. He's dope, but he's an acquired taste. And I think by the time Denzel Curry reaches maybe 35, 45 years old, he might still be doing music. Who knows? But he might not be doing music. You know what I'm saying? He might not be. Then the same thing with Jid. He might not be. He might be. He might not be. But I mean, you got to ask yourself: has these guys gotten any better, or they just at where they're at? They're just who they are. You know what I'm saying? Because I can make an argument that a lot of the artists that I say got better. You know what I'm saying? They didn't get worse, but we'll see what happens, man. Hey, man, thank y'all for watching the video. Y'all have yourself a good night. I'll see y'all in the morning, man. I'm out of here. See y'all. Peace. Bye.